The trouble with some kinds of warfare, and be certain that the tyrant knew this because it is implicit in his lesson, is that they destroy all moral decency in susceptible types. Warfare of these kinds will dump the destroyed survivors back into an innocent population that is incapable of even imagining what such returned soldiers might do. Teachings of the Golden Path, Bene Gesserit Archives. One of Miles Tegg's early memories was of sitting at dinner with his parents and his younger brother Sabine. Tegg had been only 7 at the time, but the events lay indelible in his memory. The dining room of Lernaeus, colorful with freshly cut flowers, the low light of the yellow sun, diffused by antique shades. Bright blue dinnerware and glistening silver graced the table. Acolyte servants stood ready at hand, because his mother might be permanently detached on special duty with her function as a Bene Gesserit teacher was not to be wasted. Janet Roxborough Tegg, a large-boned woman who appeared cast for the part of Grande Dame, looked down her nose from one end of the table, watching what the dinner service not be impaired by the slightest misplacement. Lashi Tegg, Miles' father, always observed this with a faint air of amusement. He was a thin man with high forehead, a face so narrow his dark eyes appeared to bulge at the sides. His black hair was a perfect counterpoint for his wife's fairness. Above the subdued sounds at the table and the rich smell of spiced Edu soup, his mother instructed his father on how to deal with an importunate free trader. When she said Tleilaxu, she had Miles's entire attention. His education had just recently touched on the Bene Tleilax. Even Sabine, who succumbed many years later to a poisoner on Romo, listened with as much of his 4-year-old awareness as he could muster. Sabine hero-worshipped his brother. Anything that caught the attention of Miles was of interest to Sabine. Both boys listened intently. "The man is fronting for the Tleilaxu," Lady Janet said. "I can hear it in his voice." "I do not doubt your ability to detect such things, my dear," Lashi Tegg said. "But what am I to do? He has the proper tokens of credit, and he wishes to buy the order for the rice is unimportant at the moment. Never assume that what a face dancer appears to seek is actually what it seeks. I'm not sure he's a face dancer. I'm sure he's not a face dancer. Lashi, I know you have learned this well at my instruction and can detect a face dancer. I agree that the free trader is not one of them. The face dancers remain on his ship. They know I am here. They know they could not fool you, yes, but Tleilaxu strategy is always woven within a web of strategies, any one of which may be the real strategy. They learned that from us. My dear, if we are dealing with the Tleilaxu, I do not question your judgment. Then it immediately becomes a question of melange." Lady Janet nodded her head gently. Indeed, even Miles knew about the Tleilaxu connection with the spice. It was one of the things that fascinated him about the Tleilaxu. For every milligram of melange produced on Arrakis, the Bene Tleilax tanks produced long tons. Use of melange had grown to fit the new supply, and even the Spacing Guild bent its knee before this power. "But the rice," Lashi Tegg ventured. "My dear husband, the Bene Tleilax have no need of that much pongy rice in our sector. They require it for trade. We must find out who really needs the rice." "You want me to delay," he said. "Precisely. You are superb at what we now require. Don't give that free trader the chance to say yes or no. Someone trained by the face dancers will appreciate such subtlety. We lure the face dancers out of the ship while you initiate inquiries elsewhere." Lady Janet smiled. "You are lovely when you leap ahead of me that way." A look of understanding passed between them. "He cannot go to another supplier in this sector," Lashi Tegg said. "He will wish to avoid a go-no-go confrontation," Lady Janet said, patting the table. "Delay, and more delay. You must draw the face dancers out of the ship. They will realize, of course. Yes, my dear, and it's dangerous. You must always meet on your own ground and with your own guards nearby. Miles Tegg recalled that his father had, indeed, drawn the face dancers out of the ship. His mother had taken Miles to the viewer where he watched the copper-walled room in which his father drove the bargain that won Chome's highest commendation and a rich bonus. The first face dancers Miles Tegg ever saw, two small men as alike as twins, almost chinless, round faces, pug noses, tiny mouths, black button eyes, and short-cropped white hair that stood up from their heads like the bristles on a brush. The two were dressed as the free trader had been. Black tunics and trousers. Illusion, Miles, his mother said. Illusion is their way. The fashioning of illusion to achieve real goals, that is how the Tleilaxu work. Like the magician at the winter show? Miles asked, his gaze intent on the viewer and its toy figure scene. Quite similar, his mother agreed. She too watched the viewer as she spoke, but one arm went protectively around her son's shoulders. You are looking at evil, Miles. Study it carefully. The faces you see can be changed in any instant. They can grow taller, appear heavier. They could mimic your father so that only I would recognize the substitution. Miles Tegg's mouth formed a soundless O. He stared at the viewer, listening to his father explain that the price of Chome's pongy rice once more had gone up alarmingly. And the most terrible thing of all, his mother said, some of the newer face dancers can, by touching the flesh of a victim, absorb some of the victim's memories. They read minds? Miles looked up at his mother. Not exactly. We think they take a print of their memories, almost a holophoto process. They do not yet know that we are aware of this. Miles understood. He was not to speak of this to anyone, not even to his father or his mother. She had taught him the Bene Gesserit way of secrecy. He watched the figures in the screen with care. At his father's words, the face dancers betrayed no emotion, but their eyes appeared to glitter more brightly. How did they get so evil? Miles asked. They are communal beings, bred not to identify with any shape or face. The appearance they present now is for my benefit. They know I am watching. They have relaxed into their natural communal shape. Mark it closely. Miles tipped his head to one side and studied the face dancers. They looked so bland and ineffectual. They have no sense of self, his mother said. They have only the instinct to preserve their own lives unless ordered to die for their masters. Would they do that? They have done it many times. Who are their masters? Men who seldom leave the planets of the Bene Tleilax. Do they have children? Not face dancers. They are mules, sterile, but their masters can breed. We have taken a few of them, but the offspring are strange, few female births, and even then we cannot probe their other memories. Miles frowned. He knew his mother was a Bene Gesserit. He knew the Reverend Mothers carried a marvelous reservoir of other memories, going back through all the millennia of the sisterhood. He even knew of the Bene Gesserit breeding design. Reverend Mothers chose particular men and had children by those men. What are the Tleilaxu women like? Miles asked. It was a perceptive question that sent a surge of pride through the Lady Janet. Yes, it was almost a certainty that she had a particular or a potential Mentat here. The breeding mistress had been right about the gene potential of Lashy Tegg. No one outside their planets has ever reported seeing a Tleilaxu female, the Lady Janet said. Do they exist, or is it just the tanks? Well, they exist. Are any of the face dancers women? At their own choice, they can be male or female. Observe them carefully. They know what your father is doing, and it angers them. Will they try to hurt my father? They don't dare. We have taken precautions, and they know it. See how one of the left See how the one on the left works his jaws? That is one of their anger signs. You said they were communal beings. Like hive insects, Miles, they have no self-image. Without a sense of self, they go beyond amorality. Nothing they say or do can be trusted. Miles shuddered. We have never been able to detect an ethical code in them, the Lady Janet said. They are flesh made into automata. Without self, they have nothing to esteem or even doubt. They are bred only to obey their masters. And they were told to come here and buy the rice. Exactly. They were told to get it, and there's no other place in this sector where they can do that. They must buy it from Father? He's their only source. At this very moment, son, they are paying in melange. You see? Miles saw the orange-brown spice markers change hands, a tall stack of them, which one of the face dancers removed from a case on the floor. The price is far, far higher than they ever anticipated, the Lady Janet said. This will be an easy trail to follow. Why? Someone will be bankrupted acquiring that shipment. We think we know who the buyer is. Whoever it is, we will learn of it. Then we will know what was really being traded here. Lady Janet then began to point out the identifiable incongruities that betrayed a face dancer to trained eyes and ears. They were subtle signs, but Miles picked up on them immediately. His mother told him that she thought he might become a Mentat, perhaps even more. Shortly before his 13th birthday, Miles Tagg was sent away to advanced schooling at the Bene Gesserit stronghold on Lampadas, where his mother's assessment of him was confirmed. Word went back to her. You have given us the warrior Mentat we had hoped for. Tagg did not see this note until sorting through his mother's effects after her death. The words inscribed on a small sheet of Redulian crystal with the chapter house imprint below them filled him with an odd sense of displacement in time. His memory put him suddenly back on Lampadas, where the love-awe he had felt for his mother was deftly transferred to the sisterhood itself, as originally intended. He had come to understand this only during his later Mentat training, but the understanding changed little. If anything, it bound him even more strongly to the Bene Gesserit. It confirmed that the sisterhood must be one of his strengths. He already knew that the Bene Gesserit sisterhood was one of the most powerful forces in the universe, equal at least to the Spacing Guild, superior to the Fish Speaker Council that had inherited the core of the old Atreides Empire, superior by far to Chom, and balanced somehow with the Fabricators of Ix and with the Bene Tleilax. A small measure of the sisterhood's far-reaching authority could be deduced from the fact that they held this authority despite Tleilaxu tank-grown melange, which had broken the Reikian monopoly on the spice, just as Ixian navigator machines had broken the guild monopoly on space travel. Miles Tagg knew his history well by then. Guild navigators no longer were the only ones who could thread a ship through the folds of space, in this galaxy one instant, in a faraway galaxy the very next heartbeat. The school sisters held back very little from him, revealing there for the first time the fact of his Atreides ancestry. That revelation was necessary because of the tests they gave him. They obviously were testing his prescience. Could he, like a guild navigator, detect fatal obstructions? He failed. They tried him next on no chambers and no ships. He was blind to such devices as the rest of humankind. For this test, though, they fed him increased doses of the spice, and he sensed the awakening of his true self. The mind at its beginning, a teacher sister called it when he asked for an explanation of this odd sensation. For a time, the universe was magical as he looked at it through his new awareness. His awareness was a circle, then a globe. Arbitrary forms became transient. He fell into trance state without warning until the sisters taught him how to control this. They provided him with accounts of saints and mystics, and forced him to draw a freehand circle with either hand, following the line with his awareness. By the end of the term, his awareness resumed its touch with conventional labels, but the memory of the magic never left him. He found that memory a source of strength at the most difficult moments. After accepting the assignment as weapons master to the Gola, Teg found his magical memory increasingly with him. It was especially useful during his first interview with Xuang Yu at the keep on Gamu. They met in the Reverend Mother's study, a place of shiny metal walls and numerous instruments, most of them with the stamp of Ix on them. Even the chair in which he sat, the morning sun coming through the window behind her and making her face difficult to see, even that chair was one of the Ixian self-molders. He was forced to sit in a chair dog, though he realized she must know he detested the use of any life form for such a demeaning task. "You were chosen because you actually are a grandfatherly figure," Xuang Yu said. The bright sunlight formed a corona around her hooded head. "Deliberate. Your wisdom will earn the child's love and respect. There's no way I could be a father figure. According to Taraza, you have the precise characteristics she requires. I know of your honorable scars and their value to us." This only reconfirmed his previous Mentat summation. They have been planning this for a long time. They have bred for it. I was bred for it. I am part of their larger plan. All he said was, "Taraza expects this child to become a redoubtable warrior and then restored to his true self." Xuang Yu merely stared at him for a moment, then, "You must not answer any of his questions about Golas, should he encounter the subject. We do not even use the word until I give you permission. We will supply you with all of the Gola data your duties require." Coldly parceling out his words for emphasis, Teg said, "Perhaps the Reverend Mother was not informed that I am well versed in the lore of Tleilaxu Golas. I have met Tleilaxu in battle." "Do you think you know enough about the Idaho series?" "The Idahos are reputed to have been brilliant military strategists," Teg said. "Then perhaps the great Bashar was not informed about the other characteristics of our Gola." No doubt of the mockery in her voice. Something else as well. Jealousy and great anger, poorly concealed. Teg's mother had taught him ways of reading through her own masks, a forbidden teaching which he had always concealed. He feigned chagrin and shrugged. It was obvious, though, that Xuang Yu knew he was Taraza's Bashar. The lines had been drawn. "At Bene Gesserit behest," Xuang Yu said, "the Tleilaxu have made a significant alteration in the present Idaho series. His nerve muscle system has been modernized." "Without changing the original persona?" Teg fed the question to her blandly, wondering how far she would go in revelation. "He is a Gola, not a clone." "I see. Do you really? He requires the most careful Pranabindu training at all stages." "Taraza's orders exactly," Teg said, "and we will all obey those orders." Xuang Yu leaned forward, not concealing her anger. "You have been asked to train a Gola whose role in certain parts is most dangerous to us all. I don't think you even remotely understand what you will train." What you will train, Teg thought, not whom. This Gola child would never be a whom for Xuang Yu or any of the others who opposed Taraza. Perhaps the Gola would not be a whom to anyone until restored to his original self, firmly seated in that original Duncan, Idaho identity. Teg saw clearly now that Xuang Yu harbored more than hidden reservations about the Gola project. She was in active opposition, just as Taraza had warned. Xuang Yu was the enemy, and Taraza's orders had been explicit. "You will protect that child against any threat."